The 10 Most Shocking Serial Killer Confessions. Serial killers often leave behind a trail of mystery and horror, but what happens when they confess their crimes? Why do they choose to reveal their darkest deeds? Sometimes it's guilt, a desperate plea for attention, or simply a twisted sense of pride. Today, we delve into 10 of the most shocking serial killer confessions, each one unique in its own horrifying way. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, one of the most notorious serial killers in U.S. history, initially denied his crimes, portraying himself as a falsely accused victim. But just days before his execution in 1989, Bundy confessed to killing 30 women across 7 states. He detailed his crimes to investigators, claiming he wanted to help solve other missing person cases. In interviews, Bundy described his method of approaching victims with charm, pretending to need help or appearing injured before overpowering them. He admitted to necrophilic acts and decapitation, and offered details about the locations of his crimes. Strange was that Bundy referred to himself in the third person during his confessions, almost as if he was narrating someone else's story. Was this a sign of dissociation, or was he simply enjoying the spotlight? How could someone as charismatic as Bundy hide such depravity? Did Bundy confess out of guilt, or was it a final act of control over his narrative? Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader, the self-proclaimed BTK killer, had evaded police for decades. His confession came after he sent taunting letters to law enforcement, detailing his crimes and providing evidence to prove his identity. In 2005, when police tricked him into sending a floppy disk, Rader was caught and confessed to 10 murders. Rader's confession revealed a chilling mix of meticulous planning and an ordinary suburban life. He was a church leader and Boy Scout volunteer, living what appeared to be a normal life. His letters expressed pride in his murders, making his confession feel like a twisted trophy collection. Rader's arrogance led to his capture. Despite years of evasion, he couldn't resist bragging, ultimately implicating himself. Why do killers like Rader feel the need to taunt authorities? How did Rader maintain such a facade of normalcy for so long? Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal, confessed to killing and dismembering 17 men and boys. His arrest in 1991 came after one of his intended victims escaped and alerted police. Dahmer's confession was as horrifying as his crimes, detailing his necrophilic tendencies and cannibalism. Dahmer expressed a chilling calmness as he recounted these details, often noting he felt compelled to kill. He said he didn't want to die without people knowing the full extent of his crimes. Does remorse make his actions any less monstrous? Could someone have intervened earlier to prevent Dahmer's descent into violence? Did Dahmer genuinely feel remorse, or was it another form of manipulation? John Wayne Gacy. We previously discussed John Wayne Gacy in one of our videos about unsettling death row meals, where we covered his infamous last meal. If you're interested, the link is in the description. The killer clown John Wayne Gacy, who murdered 33 boys and young men, confessed after police discovered bodies buried in the crawl space of his home in 1978. His confession was laced with attempts to downplay his culpability, even blaming some of the victims. Gacy's ability to live a double life, a well-respected community figure by day and a murderer by night, made his confession all the more disturbing. Gacy's confessions were often contradictory. He denied responsibility for some murders while admitting to others. Was this denial a form of self-preservation, or did he genuinely believe his own lies? How did Gacy compartmentalize his crimes while living a seemingly normal life? Could his confession help bring closure to the victims' families? Aileen Wuornos. Aileen Wuornos, dubbed the Damsel of Death, confessed to killing 7 men between 1989 and 1990. Wuornos claimed the killings were in self-defense, alleging that her victims had assaulted her. Unlike most serial killers, Wuornos portrayed herself as a victim rather than a predator. She expressed no regret, believing her actions were justified. Wuornos's confession came with a tinge of defiance. Does this perspective change how society views her actions? Was Wuornos's claim of self-defense genuine or a way to justify her crimes? Would her confession have been different if her background of abuse had been considered more sympathetically? Israel Keyes. In 2012, Israel Keyes shocked investigators with his detailed confession of multiple murders across the U.S. Keyes outlined how he meticulously planned his crimes, using kill kits buried in various locations. He confessed to at least 11 murders before committing suicide in his jail cell. Keyes refused to name all his victims, leaving behind a haunting mystery. Keyes' confession highlighted his methodical planning and chilling detachment. His refusal to reveal all his victims added a layer of mystery to his already horrifying crimes. Why would a killer confess yet withhold vital information? Was Keyes' confession an attempt to retain power even in custody? David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz, known as the Son of Sam, confessed to killing 6 people in New York City during the 1970s. In his confession, he claimed a demonic dog named Harvey had commanded him to kill. Berkowitz's claim of demonic possession blurred the line between reality and delusion. He later recanted this story, raising questions about his mental state and motivations. Was this an excuse, or did he truly believe his own story? How does one separate delusion from calculated manipulation in such cases? Ed Kemper. Ed Kemper, the 6'9" co-ed killer, confessed to murdering 10 people, including his grandparents and mother. After killing his mother in 1973, Kemper called the police and calmly confessed, waiting to be arrested. Kemper's confession was disturbingly rational. He described his crimes with chilling detail, even blaming his mother for his violent tendencies. He even helped investigators understand his psychological motivations. What drives a killer to so calmly admit their guilt? Can a killer's cooperation during confession help mitigate their crimes in the eyes of society? Henry Lee Lucas. Henry Lee Lucas confessed to over 600 murders, earning the title of America's most prolific serial killer, though most of his confessions were proven false. Lucas's confessions were filled with contradictions and inconsistencies. Lucas seemed to enjoy the attention his confessions brought, often fabricating details. His false confessions revealed flaws in the justice system's reliance on confessions without corroborative evidence. Why do some killers confess to crimes they didn't commit? How should law enforcement handle unreliable confessions? Samuel Little. Samuel Little confessed to killing 93 women between 1970 and 2005, making him one of the deadliest serial killers in U.S. history. Little provided detailed drawings and descriptions of his victims, many of whom had been unidentified for decades. Little's confessions led to the closure of numerous cold cases. However, his ability to vividly recall so many details raises questions about his psyche and why he waited so long to confess. How many victims might still be unidentified without his cooperation? Each confession reveals something unique about the minds of serial killers. Whether it's Bundy's third-person narration or Rader's arrogance, these admissions show that the truth is often as horrifying as the crimes themselves. But why do killers confess at all? Is it guilt, pride, or the need for control? And how do investigators navigate the fine line between genuine confessions and manipulative lies? These questions remind us that the human psyche is as dark and complex as the crimes committed by these infamous figures. If you want to explore more intriguing narratives, mysteries, and tales of human resilience, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell icon to stay updated every time we post new content. Your support keeps us motivated to bring you the stories that matter. Love the content we create? Help us keep this channel alive and thriving by making a donation.